those like depressed Scandinavian brooding detectives?
Oh,
Dark,
That's my thing.
dark, grim.
It's dark. They always need a shave.
Yeah.
They're all bundled up. Those are catnip for me.
Yeah. Their wife has just left them.
Yes, exactly. Their boss hates them. Their kids aren't speaking to them. Like the worse the situation is, the more I'm like, oh yeah, I'm watching this.
And like 98% of them take place at night,
Yes,
dark
yes,
and grim
yes.
in tone and
Oh, yeah.
lighting. Welcome to Wish I'd Known Then podcast. I'm Sara Rosett.
And I'm Jamie Albright. And this week on the show we have
Jennifer Hilt.
and Sara Rosett because they co-wrote a book.
Yes, that's true. We did the mystery and thriller Trope Thesaurus. And
Right.
we talked a lot about specific tropes, but just tropes in general too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Not
That was
writing
good.
cliches and adding depth, making tropes work for you, basically. Not just cramming them all in, but making them really work for you.
Right, right. And kind of the story beats of tropes and
Mhm.
how to tips on co-writing and stuff like that. So yeah.
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
was
And then
good.
you came up with an idea for an amnesia story. And we
Oh,
just
yeah, I
brainstormed
did.
right there.
I
That was
came
fun.
up right on the spot.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
That's
All
funny.
right. Well, what have you been doing?
Well, nothing. Getting ready for the, snow apocalypse. It's not going to happen here. I mean, I say that.
Since we're all ready,
I know.
no.
No, I know. And it's actually ice for us,
Mhm.
not snow. But right before we got on, I hit my head on the corner of my car lift thing, and I just yelled a real bad word, and I mean, like loud in my garage for the neighbors to hear. And anytime I hit my head, I just get mad, and I'm like, I'm not over it. I'm just still mad.
Still a little annoyed, huh?
Still annoyed. No, I'm just getting ready for this branding workshop tomorrow. Well, it's Friday today. We're recording this, so it's tomorrow, the 24th. And so, yeah, I've just been doing that all week and wrote a little bit, but mostly just getting ready for this. I can only do one thing at a time. I was like, at the beginning of the week, I was like, okay, in the mornings, I'm going to write. And then in the afternoons, I will do, no, I can only do one thing at a time. So
Same for me. I always think I'll work in the morning and then I'll switch. And that whole thing about task switching, I think is so true. I have such a hard time doing it.
Me too.
So yeah, I'm back to writing.
Good.
Working on the draft of the third book in the Egypt series.
Yeah.
And it's fine. But we talked about this in another interview we did this week. I feel like it's really dry because I'm just getting all the basic stuff down. And I'll go back and make it better and fix it because that's how I like to work. I like to go over it several times. I'm not a one and done. I can't do that. I can't hold all that information in my head at once. The characters and the mystery and the humor and all that. So
yeah,
I have to layer it in. But so yeah, it feels good to be doing that. And the letters are all set up. They're ready. They're going out, and I have it set up now where it's pretty much I just go in twice a month, set them, release the one that needs to be released. So yeah, so that's going good. It's like I feel like I have some breathing room, whereas like in the lead up to the letters and everything, it was pretty busy. I didn't feel like I quite had enough time to do everything. So I'm catching up on some things. But yeah, so it's going good.
That's good.
It's good. I feel like I'm calmed down just a little bit.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad, and I'm glad you're getting back into writing.
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah.
And I like it that I can take a break and do some other things or a different type of project, which is nice.
Creativity. Yeah.
No new supporters this week, but we do have a new supporter episode that is out on the podcast feed. If you have supported us and you have your private RSS feed, it is about pen names, and it's all. I interviewed Jamie basically. I convinced her to let me interview her. She was reluctant.
I was a little reluctant. Like, I don't know, I just used it. I like the name. I used it.
Yeah. Well, it's a little more complicated than that.
It is. It is.
Yeah. But yeah, we just talked about pen names and how your pen name has gone and ideas of when you might want to use one and is it worth it? Is it a good thing to do that now in the age of AI? We've talked about a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. And we're on Substack, y'all. So we love, doing the podcast, and the most recent 100 episodes are free over there. But if anyone goes over there and wants the previous 200 episodes, those are behind a paywall. So on Substack, you'd have to do that. Yeah, and you can access that through your private RSS feed or through a paid subscription on Substack. So if you already have,
so we're changing things up a little bit, because we have just had these supporter episodes that were only accessed by supporters, but now we're going to try this where we put some of them in the vault. We figure 300 episodes, we can put a few in the vault.
Yeah.
And if you sign up to be a supporter, that's one of the benefits, is that you'll have access to the whole backlist. And you can sign up in your podcast app or on Substack. It all will be the same, and you can find the same supporter episodes over on Substack or directly through your podcast app, however you want to do it. So we're just trying to make it easy for everyone. Right. And the other fun thing about Substack is that they have a comment thread for each episode. So if you want to comment on the episode, go over there. It'll be easy, and it will be easier to keep track of things. Right now, we do have a Slack, but I think we're going to close that out and move our conversations over to Substack, where it will be easier to link to, whichever episode you're interested in and talking about. And then the other thing is that if you're a supporter, you'll be able to start comment threads, start threads over there, but you don't have to be to comment. Anybody can comment.
Right.
So that's all set up over there, and we're really excited to connect with people over there.
Well, yeah. Well, anything else?
I think that's it.
I think that's it. We should get on with the interview because it's really great.
Yeah. Here is Jennifer Hilt.
And Sara Rosett.
True. We are really excited to have Jennifer Hilt back. Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
Hey, great. Glad to be here. Thanks so much.
We're glad you're here. You're a repeat guest, so we always love those.
That's fun. Always very fun.
In case people haven't heard you before, we'll link to the previous episodes that you've been on. But just in case, USA Today bestselling author Jennifer Hilt is the author of the Trope Thesaurus. She loves Scandi Noir, travel, and talking tropes. So it's perfect for today.
Okay, wait. Scandi Noir? What's that?
Those like depressed Scandinavian brooding detectives?
Dark,
that's my thing.
Grim.
It's dark. They always need a shave.
Yeah.
they're all bundled up. Those are like catnip for me,
Their wife has just left them.
Yes, exactly. Their boss hates them. Their kids aren't speaking to them. Like, the worse the situation is, the more I'm like, oh yeah, I'm watching this.
And like 98% of them take place at night.
Yes.
They're dark and grim in tone and lighting.
Yeah. It's never they never shoot those mysteries in summer in Scandinavia when you have daylight for 16 hours or something. It's always in winter. Yeah.
That's funny. Give us an update on what's happened since you were last on the podcast.
Let's see. I think I was last on the podcast right before I did the TropeCon, and that was a lot of fun. And I'm thinking when my life settles down a little bit to do another one. And besides that, really all I've done is work on this new book with Sara, which we'll talk about, and just personally moving from one place to another. And not having done that in a while, I was like, oh, that has taken a lot of time to move several states away from where you've lived for a long time. The reason why I was just mentioning it is I think it's important if you have something like that in your writing it takes a huge amount of mental energy, not just the time. So if you're going through some big upheaval thing like that and you can't work like you usually do to cut yourself some slack, because I just found the harder I pushed, the worse it got. And
the more stressed out you got.
Yeah. And it was really like a good lesson of just, you know what, I can do what I can do, and the work will be there still.
Yeah. We always overestimate what we're capable of.
Yeah.
I am the queen of that, let me tell you. The queen.
Yes.
But so don't come from a throne. But we always overestimate what we can
even
do.
In normal days, like our normal day. I'll think I'm going to do blah blah blah, and then if I really stop and think about it, I think that's 17 things. There's no way I'm going to be able to do that. And then you add in a move or somebody being sick or something like that, and it just compounds it.
All those things. Yeah. I remember when my kids were little, I figured out I could take them in and out of the car seats 3 times for like when you went out to do errands and things like that. And I was thinking, honestly, in a way, that's maybe not like a bad rule for me to readopt right now. If I can get 3 things done today, that's a really good day because everything is more complicated.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we want to talk about the Trope Thesaurus book while you're here, the mystery and thriller one that's just out. Yeah. But go back a little bit and give us a background on just the Trope Thesaurus series and how that got started.
I got started with that just honestly totally by accident and just being curious, which is a really great thing as a writer if you have just being interested in stuff, because don't ever let people talk you out of that. Or the kind of more quirky and curious your mind is about things, the better questions you ask. And I just got started with that because I was helping some authors around the pandemic and with plotting. And in doing that and talking about their story ideas, I was thinking, oh, we're actually talking about tropes. And the reaction I got, and this was before the really early days of the pandemic. So like the late, what are we talking, like 2020 or something? We weren't talking about tropes like we were now. And the authors and writers were like, I don't want to write a story using tropes. And I was thinking, that's interesting because we like need a common language to talk about story, but yet we have these like really bad feelings about them. So that kind of just launched me into what is a trope and looking for it and reading, like going back to my favorite books and realizing, I didn't even realize they had these common elements that sucked me in. I didn't see those pieces put together. And then also at the same time, I think the word was being used a lot more in Netflix and streaming services than now we use it a lot in kind of author storyland, but movies and the streaming services were using it much more. Like BuzzFeed would be, what are your top 10 best enemies to lovers rom-coms, kind of thing like that. So and I think it's largely because of TikTok that like these words people were becoming more conscious of it. Like I think we've used them for a really long time, but we just weren't aware we were using them. And that's like the power of a trope, but it's just now we've fast forwarded to, we need to use it for marketing. So it's helpful if we know what we got in there or just to help explain our story quickly to readers, that kind of thing. Right. So that kind of started me on it. And I just put everything I knew at the time into the one book thinking to see what would happen. And I was really surprised that people were interested in it and wanted to talk about it more. And so that just kind of led me to look at genres more detailed and specifically. So that's what led to the different books. And then the interesting thing to me about that was every time I've done one of those books, I've learned something that I didn't know.
Yeah.
Which was like, they say that about teaching. You always learn actually more from your students than you do when you're setting out. So it's been a really interesting journey for me just to understand, there's all these elements of story that I wasn't aware of out there that we're using without being conscious of, or ways we could maybe do it a little more efficiently.
Right. Now tell us the names of all of them.
Oh, okay. So the first one's a Trope Thesaurus. Then I did the horror Trope Thesaurus. And then I did What About Romance? And then I did the science fiction fantasy. And then now the latest book is mystery thriller. And I roped Sara into working on that and writing that with me.
Right.
She didn't have to work too hard.
Yeah. This is your first time that both of you have co-written, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me about that. What did you like most and what was the most challenging?
Honestly, it was really easy to write with Sara. And it makes me almost a little like, I had never done that before. I'd worked on a fiction project with my brother, but it was like different because this was with fiction is like you have to have obviously you have to have the same voice. And this we could keep our perspective voices and our personalities, but we have a similar way of looking at stuff, but yet different enough. So it was actually really fun. And for me, with struggling with health issues, it really helped me stay enthusiastic and engaged, where I think I could have just spiraled and without somebody to be like, oh, this is interesting. Hey, I thought about this. I watched this. Have you seen this? So I feel super grateful to have somebody like that. I feel like the most difficult part of it, honestly, was the publishing part because we had to use some different things. So I was laughing and saying to my husband, oh my gosh, the book was like super easy to do. And then this was just like we had to use some different outlets. And then with co-authors, there's the mechanics of going through the indie publish process as two authors was more complicated for me than us writing together.
Yeah, I totally agree because I felt like the publishing process, we were back at zero knowledge of how to do the process. So once we got all that figured out, and it wasn't hard, it was just, it took a little bit longer. We used Draft Digital to do the payment splitting, but that's not how either one of us normally uploads books. And so there were all these things we weren't familiar with. And I know the people at Draft Digital are probably like, oh, there she is emailing again with another question. But they're very kind and answered them all. So we got it all straightened out now. But yeah, I would say the writing part was really easy. And I think part of it was because there was already a structure to the books that was established, and we just went with that. And so all we needed to do was just figure out what mystery and thriller elements we wanted to write about, get that down on paper. And then Jennifer did a lot of the heavy lifting, like the introduction, the transition stuff. She put it all together. We had the different parts, and then she stitched it together. And this was an idea that I'd had forever, to do a book about tropes, mystery tropes, but I just never got around to it. And then when we did I think you were on the podcast for the Trope Con. Yeah. When we were getting off, I was like, hey, if you ever want to collaborate, I would be interested in that. And then it just went from there. It was super easy. But we did a contract and had a plan of who was going to do what.
Yeah. And it was also like, because it is really important to trust the other person, because like we both have other things. Sara had like other fiction books she's working on, and she had other stuff. And it's like, you really could just trust that, okay, I'm going to work on this month. You're going to work on your stuff this month, and we're going to meet next month and talk about it. And that worked great for us, because I knew I would get my stuff done, because I didn't want to have to tell Sara I didn't do my homework. And
same.
And Sara is like the kind of person that I didn't have worries about that. So I think if you're thinking about a co-writing project, I didn't think about it like in that way consciously before we started, but like obviously I knew you and I knew your books and I knew you guys from this, and you've done so much other work. So I already knew you were like a very reliable, smart, quality person. But I think it's important to realize that with like co-writing, not to just maybe choose your best friend or a family member, like somebody who you can have an honest conversation with, and you really respect their kind of work ethic, and they can handle you. Like Sara's too kind to mention, but I probably use a different font every time I would send her something.
And it's totally fine.
Yeah. See, but I'm lucky she says that, because there's not everybody who would. And they'd be like, what? You can't find one and stick to it. And I don't even see that, because my mind is like just thinking about the content. So in the end, you got to go through and fix that. But she was okay with that. Where if I had somebody who kept sending me back, I can't even read this or whatever. Like, it's like, it is dating. So those are just things for other people to think about, that I think because we're both have been around a while, that we instinctively understood that. But those were just things I would think about if for other people thinking of co-writing projects.
Right.
Definitely. And I would say definitely get on a Zoom call with somebody at least.
Yes.
We've never met in person. I can't remember if we have. I was like, did we meet at a conference? I just forgot.
No, we haven't. It feels like we have, but we haven't.
Yeah, but just that interaction online, that's enough to let you know usually if it's going to be a good thing or not. And then if it's not, you've got the contract and you can bow out gracefully and go on your way.
Did you guys get a contract from somebody else, or did you do your own, or did you?
Sara handled that, so I'll let her speak to it.
Yeah, I just went online and I think the Science Fiction and Fantasy organization has a template, and I took that and I put it into Claude, and I said, please modify this or what else do you need to know to modify this for a nonfiction project? And it gave me some ideas. And then gave me a draft, and I tweaked it, and that was what we did.
Oh, so that's great.
Let's talk about the book a little bit. Let's talk about the mystery and thriller elements of it. One of the things you mentioned in the introduction was the scars and secrets as trope superstars. Yes. So talk about that. Why are they so powerful? Because this could apply to mystery and thriller, but to other genres as well.
To other genres too, yeah.
The Scars and Secrets was why I was most excited to do this book, because as I was working on the other books, those ideas were coming out to me. Like I was thinking, oh yeah, Scars and Secrets, we keep seeing it again and again. And those are such important tropes in any genre that you write in. But I think especially for mystery and thriller, they have the possibility to really like raise the stakes and take your story to the next level in terms of being captivating and those really complex characters that we love. So I was excited to write this with that in mind of, okay, I want to see what else can I learn about scars and secrets with mystery and thriller. And the thing that I kind of learned that was interesting to me, at least, was that this concept of shame kept coming up. And I hadn't realized, like, okay, so that's why tropes are important, is because it's like a vehicle that you can use. But then it's like the underlying reason of the power of it is a way for us to show in an emotion. And I think that basically shame is just so important because you can find it everywhere. And it can be a small thing from, oh, I don't know, like to like a huge thing of, oh, I killed somebody and it's a secret. So that was like going into it, what I was interested in. And then in exploring that, I realized, oh, also vulnerability is like coupled with that, like ways to make our characters vulnerable is really how we tell stories. And that's in everything. Like I was even thinking of our talk today. Oh, Jamie's going to be doing that with romantic comedy and like women's fiction, like different ways to show those parts about characters. So that to me was like really exciting and interesting.
Yeah, and I think it works for darker and lighter. Like you said, it could be the big secret that I killed somebody and I'm trying to keep quiet about it. But shame also, I was thinking about like small town in cozy mystery. That's a huge trope, is the return to the small town. And usually the person who goes back, something horrible has happened and they are very ashamed. They don't really want to go back.
Right.
Or they left on a bad note and they don't want to go back.
Right.
That's, it works wherever you want to try it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And just as a side note, my husband works in mental health. And so he had told me once that shame is the most difficult emotion for humans to overcome. Yeah. And so that was like, oh, that's so interesting, because it's also like specific, because when we think about, somebody has, a character hates something or someone or whatever, that can feel generic. But if it's shame, then it's usually in shame, you're the one who's like in the less powerful position. If you've ever been bullied, or I think all of us have some experience of shame, and you can think about, there's like an external force that is magnifying you feeling that way. So it's helpful with writing, because then it's like, it gives you other ways of like, how can I do this with my characters? How can I have them have this element of shame, but they want to hide it? And it can be as like a cozy, that like you were talking about, the return to small town versus something of a really deep, dark secret.
Yeah. People say to me a lot, you're just so real. You're so real. You just tell things. I say overshare, but that's my way to combat shame. Because we're only as sick as our secrets. And I learned that a very long time ago. And if I don't keep secrets from people, then that is a way to purge shame from and I already deal with
that's fascinating.
I already deal with enough mental health issues.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't need more. So I mean, it is now. I sometimes do it in a non-healthy way, because it's almost like running it up the flagpole. How many people will cringe at this? And it's also how I can judge how shameful this thing really is. But no, that is also, I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel bad. So I'm going to purge it.
Yeah.
Then everyone else gets to deal with it, not me.
But it's so common. Like, I think we all have those things, like that. Flannery O'Connor has this great quote about, anybody who survived childhood has enough material for the rest of their life. That's like, we've all had, and that's not even counting us getting into adulthood. But I think it's just like the biggest thing that maybe that I took away from this, that people, is if you're working on your stories, think about those aspects with your character, and not even just your main character, but particularly your antagonist and side characters. It's not like it's only the hero or heroic characters who have shame. It's
absolutely.
It's usually what's driving the antagonist in a lot of stories anyway.
And it's why they think they're right.
Yes.
That's the thing about I didn't know until I really got into writing, because, and I don't even write like big antagonists and big bad, it's the baddie. But what you find out when you're studying story and stuff is the big baddie thinks they're right.
Exactly.
They think, like, deep in their core, they think they're right, or that they're somehow helping by purging the good, because they're revealing something or whatever. And so I think that's really important. And that usually probably goes back to shame as well, because they're dealing with their own stuff. Yeah. What about it with tropes and relationships, and how are they relationships, and how do you deal with that? Yeah.
I think their relationships, I think they're the same thing, and they also do different functions. So, for example, so we know stuff of like best friends, enemies to lovers, rivals. Like we all understand when we hear that, we're talking about a relationship.
Yeah.
But then we also Tropes as relationships can be focused one of the individuals. So that's why we see so many orphan stories, because it's showing us that person or is a loner and they're unprotected in society, and they're going to go on some journey and have a bunch of adventures without a bunch of people saying, "Oh, that's not a great idea," or "We're going to take care of you," or something like that.
Right,
So
right.
I think the tropes are just like little, maybe like stepping stones. I sometimes say are like they're different like pieces that you use to build your characters or your scenarios. So I think that's why they go back to like fairy tales and folklore, because we keep seeing those different kind of scenarios where people face change and danger and obstacles, and what's their journey going to be when you throw those various things at them.
Yeah.
I was just going to circle back to 1 minute to shame and say a great example, I think, of shame in a series is Justified.
Yeah.
Because and I have a huge crush on Walter Goggins and the Marshal too. But he's a great character because he's supposed to be the antagonist, the way the story's kind of set up. Boyd Crowder, if you haven't watched it, I think it's available on streaming, but you have to watch it if you have any interest in good storytelling. It's very character driven, but he's supposed to be the antagonist. But as the series goes on, we see that the Marshal, he's not really a great guy. He's got a lot of faults. He makes a lot of really questionable choices. And the guy he keeps trying to go straight and do different things, good things, the antagonist, Boyd, but life keeps pushing against him in circumstances. And so I think in both of those guys it's a great example of a relationship of those two characters. That's really what the whole 5 seasons is about, is them coming together and pushing apart, coming together and pushing apart. For a lot of these things we're talking about, that would be a great way to look at it, to study it. And then there's other ones too that Sara and I can mention, but I always like a plug for Justified.
Yeah, because also in the book, you don't just use books as examples, you use shows as examples.
Yeah.
I think it's great because I think for a lot of us, when we read, we have a hard time reading objectively. We read as editors, but when we watch a show, we can absorb some of that information in a different way and maybe see it
we're a little removed if we watch a movie versus if we read a book.
Yeah.
And you can watch a movie in 2.5 hours, probably at the most. And then you've got the whole story where it can take a long time to read a book. And books are more the distribution. It's harder to find somebody who's read a certain book versus watch a movie. There's much easier distribution of it, more common knowledge.
Yeah. It was amazing how many of the ones Sara and I had, you think of all the various movies and series and stuff out there, how many we had seen and both liked. So we're both like big Burn Notice fans. And Remington Steele, which are like these older shows, but they're really the same kind of, both of those have issues of shame in them, but dealt with in different ways.
Right.
But those are also good things if you want to check out how did they make those stories evolve.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think they have certain elements of shame, but then going back to the question about tropes or relationships, it's the relationships that I remember in these stories.
Exactly.
When I started, I didn't think about that until you said that tropes are relationships, but really that's what they are, because no matter which one I look at on our list, like amnesia, which you wouldn't think that's about relationships, but it really is, because it's how is this person going to rediscover these relationships? You know, it's if you forgot everybody in your life, what would that involve? It's all about the people related to the trope. So, anyway, so I thought it was a new way to think about tropes for me.
Yeah. Love that. Love it.
Yeah. Let's talk about cliches real quick, because I don't think this comes up as much as it used to, that tropes are bad. I feel like we've moved into the tropes are awesome. Let's use them and find our readers that way.
Yes.
But the danger is that you have a cliche that you just go with a cliche. So how do we avoid that?
I usually think of cliches as being flat or like undeveloped. And it's funny because that's a very subjective kind of thing, because so for example, all those used to be Hallmark Christmas movies, but now they're Netflix Christmas movies. They're not terribly well developed, but they're super good at tapping into emotion. So people are very happy to watch those, and they basically can't make them enough. So there's a certain element of what your audience wants and how you deliver that with tropes. But basically, I like to think of cliches as things that need to be more developed. And generally, I think of them as being negative. So like a trope, like when we talk about those other things, those are things. Tropes can be used for the protagonist, the antagonist, the side characters, but cliches are just always like a negative thing. So the ones that we typically hear about is like gold digger, dumb jock, dumb blonde, those kind of things. And they're just, yes, you can do something like that, but you need to move beyond it. And a great example would be the Reese Witherspoon. She was the law student. So
Legally Blonde.
Yeah. So they took the idea of the dumb blonde as a cliche and moved it onto, oh, she has all these other talents. She has all these other areas. She has all these other relationships. But I think that's basically what I think with tropes or with cliches is that it's just, there's not enough of it. Or people just, they'll say, oh, I don't have any tropes in my story, or I only have one. And it's, no, you're just probably not used to looking for them in your own work, which is hard I think for all of us in the beginning. But it's just the more like angles you can give somebody, the more depth is how we create the characters that are lasting. Not because you don't need to have a character that's negative. They can have different aspects of their personality like that, but like the cliches are like the mustache twirling villains that we used to see in the old Bond movies.
Yeah.
We don't really see that a lot anymore. Our audiences have moved beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah. And for newer authors who are listening, because I think if you're an established author or you've been doing this a while, you understand the importance of tropes. Like you just you know that not only are they a selling tool, they're a tool to help you write a good book. But for newer authors, I think for fear of being like everyone else, they want to shy away maybe from tropes. And I think that this is a great discussion for them to know tropes, that's not a dirty word. That's actually your ace in the hole. If you can figure out tropes and how to use them effectively and build on them, not just have enemies to lovers, work in an office, they hate each other. That's as far as you go.
Right. Yes.
Then that's where you have a problem. I think about Sally Thorne's book, The Hating Game. Like they hate each other and it's an office thing. And it's like when it starts, it's almost so cliche because they do hate each other so much. But very quickly you see there's a little bit more here. There's something more here. And and if you can build on that trope and make it deeper, build it up, build it down, as it were, then that's gold for storytelling. That's just gold. But I think a lot of newer authors want to shy away from that because they don't want their books to be like everybody else's.
Right. And the way that you make your book not like everybody else's, you take that office story or the orphan or the rival or whatever, and you put a whole lot of detail in there, like detail that only so it's not a generic story. And that's what really people like. And if you read like a blurb of your favorite author's story, you'll see that, oh, there's actually a bunch of tropes in that blurb, but they have put these details in that suck you in that you're just like, oh, it makes you lean forward like, I want to read that. So it's really the details, I think, that move us beyond being worried about cliches into using tropes effectively.
And I'm about doing a branding workshop this weekend and leading one. And I've been thinking about the tropes, but also like vibe content, vibe. But you can take that trope and pull the vibes from that trope. And because I'm looking at Frida McFadden's books and looking at all her reviews and stuff, and it's twisty and you know, you never know, you can't relax, you never know what's coming, all of those things. Those are emotions that you can pull from. Those are all mystery tropes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And her books have a really high element of escapism.
Yes.
Which I think is important, and glamour. Because before I had read The Housemaid, I was like, oh, that's interesting. This book's really popular about a housemaid. Like, how unglamorous is that? Yeah. But it's not your usual housemaid.
Exactly.
You know, so it's in a setting that you're like, oh, totally escape your real life to like some that's kind of dishy. And so she does I think Frida McFadden's success is because she really understands how to do that with tropes to give them these details that make their own stories.
Yes. Exactly. What's your process for analyzing a mystery or thriller through the lens of tropes?
That's a good question because it varies. Because I've been now doing this for for several years, it'll depend. So I'm going to give you an example. A lot of times I just see them. Remember what was the Sixth Sense, the little boy who said he sees dead people or whatever. And now that I've been doing this so long, they just pop out to me for a lot of things. But I the first time I read or watch something that I'm super excited about, I will deliberately turn that part of my brain off because I just want the experience.
Yeah.
So an example of that is Severance, and I will not drone on about it excessively, although I want to. But I just loved that of going in. I don't know what's going to happen, but I want to know. But I didn't think about it in terms of tropes and those kind of things. I just wanted that escapism of every week of being like totally pulled out of my regular life into this world of what the heck is going on.
Yeah, you
And it
just
was
don't
funny.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. And my husband, because he's been hearing me talk about this for so long, would start to mention tropes because I roped him into watching it. And I was like, I don't want, like, when the season is over, we can talk about it like that. But now I just need that escapism of it. So that for me was like a different experience. But then for other things, I'll just see them. Or if it's something of being talked about the Fourth Wing or Housemaid, I really went into it thinking, okay, why is this is incredibly popular? Why is it popular? And so then when I start to I read both of those. I was like, oh, I can see why, because she's engineered these tropes in details and put them all together in ways that just kind of are like I said before, like catnip. They're just people are just. So it just really depends on whether it's like pleasure reading. I'm always looking, like all of us, for a story that's just going to transport me out of my regular life. And then if I find something I love like that, then I'll go back and reread it and think, okay, this is so great, but also curses. How did they do it?
Yeah, exactly.
For me, it was a little bit different because I'm not as familiar with tropes, especially in my mind. I was thinking there's mystery tropes and there's romance tropes, but I feel like now that there's tropes that go across genres that you can find,
right?
Like buddy cop is basic.
Best friends. Yeah.
Best friends. There we go. I was like, what do we call it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there are some that are across all genres. And the more I did this, the deeper we got into the book, the better I got at spotting them. But a lot of times I would just watch something or read something and not like you and not worry about it. Right. But then I've noticed that there are things that I'm like, man, some people really love this and it's not appealing to me. Why is that? And I'll go back and I'll look at it and a lot of times I will find things I'm like, okay, it's these 3 or 4 tropes really appeal to this type of viewer or reader. And it's easier to spot, I think, if you're not as into the story.
Yes.
But yeah, and I've noticed that when I start thinking about things that I really like now, I can pull out a lot more tropes than used to because I can see them better now. And I think just naming them and knowing what some of these tropes are, it helps you recognize them.
Absolutely. And I would say if you're just newer to start this, it also helps to, like, if you're a cozy writer, watch something like that's a thriller, because I feel like your brain is wired to pay a little more attention to things that are a little different. And then you'll start to see tropes in there. Like Sara said, they're the same tropes, they're just applied in different ways. But that's really I think the best way to start to do that. And then you'll start to see, and it's just it's like exercise, but like more fun for sure. The more you do it, the more you'll see it. And then, like, you just can't help but be impressed. Oh, they put this and this together. I never even thought about you could do that. But then you think, if they put this and this together, if I put that and put it in this, then it's like your brain just starts making up more stories.
Right. And we should say, just adding a bunch of tropes does not a good story make.
No, that's why the relationships and the layering and the depth are important.
Just throwing a bunch of tropes into a book does not necessarily mean it will be a great book. If you have those tropes, you really have to build them out. You have to you have to make them work.
And they're not all the same. Like, some tropes are your big tropes, and some tropes are just like a small, like, minor tropes.
Yes.
For you, and you get, the great thing about it is you get to choose that.
Yes.
So that's what makes stories interesting, because that's what makes it not all the same.
That's awesome. I'm going to ask this next question because I want you both to answer it. So, what surprised you most while researching and writing this book?
I think probably how much easier it got to spot tropes as I went along, and just the prevalence of them. Now that I can see them, I made a list. There's a show that's on right now that I really like. And I was like, why do I like that so much? And I went back and I just jotted down, y'all can see my list. It is like 15 tropes that I thought of right away. And so I think that has been surprising to me how prevalent they are. But it's almost like they're like veiled, they're hidden. You get swept up in the story and you don't even realize you're being swept along by these things that pull you in.
You have to tell us what it is. What's the story?
Oh, okay. So it's on Netflix. It's a K-drama, of course. And it's called Idle Eye, which is the letter I. And it's not, the title doesn't make sense, but it's about a woman that she's an attorney. She's very straight-laced, very good at her job, very competent. But secretly, she is a fan of this singer. And that's her private life. Nobody knows about that at the office. But he gets accused of murder and she ends up taking him on. And she doesn't tell him that she's his fan. And of course, the collision course that's coming down the road. But it's so well done. And there's like tons of there's best friend, sidekick, boss, closed circle, found family, hidden identity, fish out of water, forced proximity, loner, quest, redemption, justice, suspects, victims. It's got a good mystery to it. Who really is the murderer? Plus the romance between them. And so it's really good. But I was like, okay, that's why I like that. That makes total sense.
Yes. Very cool. What surprised me the most is, so I went into it looking for, how wide reaching is this idea of shame as like a really great secret sauce for secrets and scars. What I didn't expect to understand is how important vulnerability is to characters. And I never really thought about it in characters' emotional status. And then it helped me think of all the ways that tropes help do that. For sure, you have the victim, and we already talked about the orphan and the loner, but there's just different ways that a character is defenseless or needing to have a journey. And so that was the thing that was most interesting to me was, there's that idea of vulnerability. And so I started to look and see, it was more in stories than I had ever appreciated before. So that was exciting and interesting for me to think about.
What trope did you enjoy breaking down the most?
Yeah.
Oh, I have to say, I always love amnesia, which I didn't understand why I liked it so much, but I think it's because, and I say this with all this work I've done, when Severance first started, it didn't even occur to me that was amnesia because they never use it. They only use it as memories. And that, of course, is what it is, but it was about the relationship of memories. And so then when I was 3 or 4 episodes into the first season, I was like, oh my God, talk about shame. This is my job. And it's just occurring to me that this is one big amnesia trope. But what I like about the amnesia trope is there's so many things you can do with it. You get to reset the story for part of it, but you don't have to introduce a whole bunch of new characters. You have the complications of who that character was before and who they became after that, whatever the amnesic event was, the ripples of that. I always am on the lookout for clever uses of it. One of the examples I really admire is Suki Stackhouse, the Charlene Harris series, because that woman's genius. Yeah. Her book 4, I looked it up today, is the one where Eric gets amnesia. And it's so good, but she's so smart because it's 4 in the series, right? Number 4. So you're getting a little annoyed or a little, we want something to happen between the triangle with those 3 people, Eric, Suki, and so she so cleverly gives us what we want and then takes it away at the end.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that's a great book to read for somebody who just does it so well. And she shows us this whole different side of this character that we wouldn't see before. So that's what I like about it, is that the opportunities that it has. And then just to play with memories and think of what's the scariest thing is for somebody to either control your memories or take away your memories or have that power over your mind. So I think it's just, for me, there's so many cool things with it. I've never done anything cool with it yet, but I would like to at some point.
I really like stories that have unreliable narrators. And an amnesia story is that if it's told from that person's point of view.
Yeah, because they're not really quite sure who they can trust.
No, they're not sure.
And the stories that people tell them about themselves, what's true.
What's not true. Who's manipulating, who's not. Mystery, that's huge.
And then there's always a choice needed. It'd be different if the old person didn't come back, but that's not what happens. That's what I like about it, is it's it always resurfaces at the most inopportune time.
Oh yeah, that was another thing that I hadn't realized about tropes. I hadn't really processed, is that they have their own story beats pretty much, because the amnesia story, you know how it's going to go. And, the enemies to lovers, the rival stories, what's going to happen. I hadn't really thought about that. And then how you can change it. So I thought that was interesting. For mine, I was going to say hidden identity is one of my favorites. I really enjoyed breaking that down.
Good.
And I went back and I used the first episode of Remington Steele. And I had forgotten there are like layers upon layers of hidden identities and con upon double con, triple con. And I think it's a 45-minute to an hour show. I was just floored when I went back and looked at it. I was like, this is a masterclass in how to do hidden identities and how to have fun with it. It was just so good. I enjoyed that one so much.
Were really good. And and your write-up of it was really great because it's a nice, small, tight circle. They didn't just keep adding people in it.
Yeah.
I think almost everybody in that show, the main characters, they all have at least one or two identities.
Yep.
In that episode. It's really fun.
That's fun. That's fun. Hey, back to the amnesia. Just FYI, if you're listening out there and you need an idea I have a perfect idea. I'm not going to write it. So don't you love it when people do this? You usually have, what's going to happen. They're going to they have built this life and then they're left in truth. And it usually a lot of the time is they've created this really good life, maybe a moral life or whatever, and then the old bad life in truth. What if the opposite happens? What if they had gotten in with some bad people, but they were doing really good and they kind of like this bad life, but then it comes back that they were a good person. Like they were a police officer, they were a judge, they
were a prosecutor or something.
Yeah, that would be so good. Somebody write that. I'd read it. Yeah.
Let us know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's the fun is like you can take these things and use them to help you start plotting it too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's great for like kicking off story ideas and then you follow it where it goes.
Yeah. This has been great.
Yeah. Super fun to visit with you guys.
Tell everybody where they can find out about you and the book and everything else.
As you heard, we're on Draft to Digital and we're on all the major retailers and Amazon. So you can just find us through either my name or Sara, but Trope Thesaurus Mystery Thriller. We're on digital and paperback. And
we'll have all those links in the show notes. And it was great to catch up and talk about tropes.
Thanks for having me. You guys need to, I'm sure you've had other guests who've been on more times, but you need to do like Saturday Night Live. You have to get jackets. How like they have the 7 Timers jacket or something like that.
I love it. We need merch.
Yeah, merch.
We need merch.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It has been great. All right. We'll see y'all next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.